The African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, presents a unique opportunity to enhance economic integration, foster intertrade partnerships, and attract investment across the continent. Now, Sierra Leone, with its strategic location and untapped potential, is well positioned to host a pivotal conference that can drive the rest of Africa into stronger economic ties and investment opportunities. The Africa Development Conference 2024 aims to bring together key stakeholders from across the continent, including government officials, business leaders, investors, and development partners. The conference will serve as a platform to discuss, strategize, and implement initiatives that will enhance inter-trade and investment in Africa. Now, the conference is slated for the 10th to the 11th October at the Bintumani Conference Hall in Freetown on the theme Empowering Africa, Driving Inter-Trade Partnerships and Investment Opportunities. So this morning, to discuss the conference and more, we have Fodiba Dabo, Director General of Local Content Agency Sierra Leone, and Patience Agri, Lead Event Organizer from Ghana. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning.
Patience, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yeah,
Is that
right.
Agri?
Yes,
oh,
correct.
Good. I'll start off with you, Fodiba. Quite an interesting opportunity, perhaps, as it serves. But hosting this conference in Sierra Leone, what does that give Sierra Leone, and what does Sierra Leone give in return? What's in it for us?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. What is it? What is in for us? Everything is in for us. You started off with the African Continental Free Trade. You'll agree with me that implementation of that free trade has been ongoing. Sierra Leone is only at this point playing catching up. The question remains: free trade is about making our countries borderless. How do we ensure that Sierra Leonean businesses can be able to compete, not only here in Sierra Leone, but at the global stage, in this case, African, for instance. So this conference would present us the unique opportunity to be able to dialogue with colleagues from other African countries. So basically, it's an opportunity for trade and investment. It's an opportunity for the long talk of ease of doing business, not only in Sierra Leone but across the globe. It's an opportunity for our small local entrepreneurs to be able to be linked with other business owners overseas. Bear in mind that local content for us is about making sure that we give opportunities to Sierra Leoneans and Sierra Leonean businesses. So this conference will enhance them through intertrade, like you rightly pointed out. The world is a global village. For the longest, Sierra Leone, we have a lot to catch up with, whether it's in terms of our infrastructure, whether it's in terms of even our skills development. Over the years, we've settled for less. So local content for us, we want to be able to make sure that we take local content beyond just our borders. That's the reason why I am incredibly privileged to be hosting this with colleagues from Ghana. It may interest you to know where all this started. Sometime last year, the local content agency humbly was recognized as the most outstanding local content agency across Africa. That's where I met with the organizers in somewhere in Mauritius, where I mean received that award on behalf of not only local content but the people of Sierra Leone. Since then, we started the conversation. How can we ensure that we bring these conference organizers to Sierra Leone for the very first time? And that's the reason why my sister from Ghana is here in Sierra Leone for the very first time. So we remain elated. We look forward to a very successful outcome that will be not only a win for local content, but the people of this country, especially our business owners, because there's so much opportunities out there that the only way we could tap into it is making sure that we have the right platform for people to dialogue around the table, and I believe that's what this conference seeks to achieve.
The intercontinental free trade itself is a solution to some of the problems within the economic sector within the continent, but the implementation of the trade agreement itself remains a significant challenge. Positions have been put forward, even the assumption that if we trade even within the continent, we probably don't even need international markets out of the continent for the economies within Africa to thrive. But that remains a significant challenge, intercontinental free trade. There are conferences upon conferences, but the challenges remain the same and perhaps could not be solved in one go. But this specific conference, what is the main target? Understanding again that achieving the intercontinental free trade, it will take a while, but what's the key focus for this particular conference?
Basically, like you rightly pointed out, the issues are the same wherever you go in Africa. Our problems are very much similar, whether it's in terms of infrastructure, whether it's in terms of basic livelihood for our people, whether it's in terms of, making sure quality and standards in our products and even our services are enhanced. So this conference actually will be an opportunity whereby maybe similar issues that are discussed in Kenya, for instance, in Ghana, in Comoros, Mauritius, Sierra Leone will have the opportunity to be in those breakout session, panel session, just so that we can look at some of these issues. So, like you rightly pointed out, conference in, conference out. What will be unique about this conference is clearly to make sure that we look at it inwardly, that this is really not about the fanfare, this is not about maybe the media coverage, if you like, but getting into those small sessions wherein we can discuss, basic needs for the people of Africa, the Africa that we want, the Agenda 2063 that Africa has set himself to make sure we are able to achieve that, and that's the reason why we have carefully selected people not only here in Sierra Leone but across Africa to be able to speak to the issues, to be able to make sure that we looked at those basics, if you like Sierra Leoneans would put it, the bread and butter issue, if you like. So I'm hopeful, I'm positive, and all of my team and even colleagues from Accra that we're partnering with, that this conference will definitely give us that opportunity to look into the nitty-gritties of things. Why are we not moving, for instance? Why are we stuck? Why can't we compete? Why can't we create a platform for ease of doing business, if you like?
I was just looking at one of the key objects of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, one of which is to see the need to establish about 2.5 trillion markets for businesses across Africa. One thing that came to mind is, what's our preparedness as a country to of course benefit from same. I remember at some point in time I was in Ghana, and at some point in time I went to China where there were these trade opportunities for businesses across Africa. Most of the times you see many countries participating in the same, but you hardly see Sierra Leone in those engagements. What's our preparedness? How ready are we as a country to benefit from?
I think we are quite ready now. Whether we were ready when His Excellency the President back in 2018 signed off on behalf of Sierra Leone is another story. But I think the bits has been put together. Now we know the partners around. Of course, the Ministry of Trade and Industry leading in all of these. But beyond just the Ministry of Trade or trade facilitation agencies, there are so many other players. How are we ready to make sure that I mentioned about making trade borderless? You know, the too much bureaucracy of cutting the red tapes. Why can we register businesses in a week or two as opposed to maybe Ghana or Kenya that have a 24 hours turnaround? So the issues have been discussed around the table, but we need to do more as a country. We need to run with the ideas. We need to be able to make sure we give opportunities to our Sierra Leonean indigenes that own businesses to be able confidently to say, okay, now we need to move beyond the Sierra Leone border. I think I'm comfortable establishing my business in Ghana, establishing my business in Namibia, as the case may be. So I think what we have not done as a country effectively is the sensitization aspect, because people are there having businesses. They don't even know the trillion of opportunities that are out there, that with the African continent and free trade, once Sierra Leone has been signatory, we have the unique opportunity to, not only compete here, but to take our businesses overseas, to compete, if you like. But many a time, most of the challenges that we are faced with, that's why for us as local content, we have to deliberate that local content does not mean we settle for substandard. Local content is about quality and standards. If you are not at that level where you can compete, you will not. I'll give you an example. The shirt I'm wearing, it may interest you to know that this was made in McKinney. You know, I've followed this client for the longest. I remember when I started all of this local content 6 years ago, the way I just doing things haphazardly. I said, no, you can't compete. Try to make sure you don't only do your tie-dye, but do it with some specifications, some branding, proudly, package it well, label it to show that this is from Sierra Leone. So we are gradually getting there in terms of preparedness and readiness.
We seem to be having an issue with your mic. We will wish to, of course, come over to Patience, but we'll go for a short break. Let's see ways to settle it, and then, of course, Patience will have her bites. Go for a short break.
Feels good to see your face again. It's been a very crazy day. The joyous feeling in the air when rain falls on a sunny day. Happy, yeah. Let the stars, let the roll.
Enjoy life's little pleasures with Maltina. Maltina. Share happiness.
the charges chop off a chunk of what you're sending. With no sonko, you can send money for free with AfriMoney. Any day, anytime, no matter the amount. Dial *161*1# now to send money for free with no charges. AfriMoney. No sonko.
Welcome back. This is still Wake Up Selling on AYV Television, channel 33 on Radio 101.7 FM, on our DSTV channel 399, and similarly so on our Facebook page. We are really encouraged that you continue to send us your comments, questions, and contributions, and as we go along in the program, we'll have to go through same. But nonetheless, we still have Fudibadabo in the studios and also Patience, so he's coming from Ghana. It's a pleasure having the studios, Patience.
Thank you very much.
Is it your first time coming to Sierra Leone?
Certainly, it is.
How
and I'm enjoying
like?
It already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now help us understand the Ghanaian experience, more so in terms of the Africa Continental Free Trade area.
Well, Ghana is positioned, okay, and we are privileged to have the headquarters in Ghana. And so once there is a headquarters in your country, it's easier comparatively. I wouldn't say easy, but it's easier. You know, we have our own peculiar challenges here and there, but I would like to say that there is a path, there is a focus. It's almost as if there is an agenda, okay, that the current government is positioned to achieve. And so it makes conversations around trade, facilitation, and you know, investment opportunities and multinational companies coming into the country quite easy. I remember quite recently we had signed off visa issues with South Africa, and so now Ghana, you pack your bag and you're in South Africa. And there are, I think, all over Africa, Ghana is visa free to all countries in Africa, especially under ECOWAS, you know, and then under the signatories on the AFTA. So we still have a lot to do, but I believe that the country is on the right track, and with exceptional leadership from our government, we are hopeful that in the near future, Ghana will be able to compete with the countries across Europe and Asia that are supposed to be the A-list countries in the world. So yeah, we're on a good path.
One thing that is also worth discussing is the economy of the various countries that are part of this body. I think over time it's been one of the discussions as to how we could see an harmonization. Say you take Nigeria, Ghana, the Togo, and many other countries. I think the economies are not the same. But how does same fits in well into the ideas that we discussed in this morning?
Well, DG rightfully said, we have similar African problems. It may look as though grass is greener on the other side, but once you are involved, you see the issues and you realize that the issues are the same. So it's easier to have conversation lines around trade borders, around partnerships, around investments. You realize that standardization, as DG mentioned, is a big issue in Ghana for our local entrepreneurs as well. So yeah, around the round table, you are able to discuss similar issues and then find the best possible solutions to it. Bear in mind, whatever solution would work in Ghana, there's a high possibility that it would work in Sierra Leone, only because the issues are the same. The difficulties are the same. And once there is a clear position, I always say that it's about time we cannot globalize the African agenda so that we can have a more unified one Africa. I know that this conversation has been happening even during the first president of Ghana's era, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. But Rome was not built in a day, I believe so. And so going forward, I know that all these opportunities that are coming up, with, for example, with the ADC conference that we are organizing, it's setting the platform. It's actually doing something about the talk, so that we are not just talking the talk, but we are walking the talk.
To be able to make much more progress, it requires going back to the drawing board periodically to assess, first of all, keeping an eye on the goal and what has been accomplished, the challenges and what's pending. In your fair assessment, how are we doing as a continent with this golden opportunity to boost our economies across the continent? How is the intercontinental free trade doing? What are we doing right? What's still there as a challenge?
Exactly.
And what should we now prioritize?
Exactly. I think that overall, we are on the right track. I mean, there are implementations here and there, the introduction of the AFTA, being a sub of the AU and all that, it's in the right direction. What I think the challenges are centered around some sensitive areas. You know, there are government bureaucracies, there are African-related problems with leadership. I feel our greatest enemy, and I'm going to be in trouble for this, is our leadership skills in Africa. Once there is a roundtable discussion, I believe, of all our leaders, and they try to have one agenda for Africa. It shouldn't be a country sitting down and saying that I want to unite Africa. It should be all the African countries coming and setting an agenda, like the Agenda 2063. It's a step in a good direction, but I think more can be done. We can have discussions around specific industries or specific economic professions, if you like. For example, the one problem that I think we have is our aviation. It may interest you to know that it costs about a double, 100% more when you're traveling from one African country to the other than it does when you're traveling from an African country to a European country. And the distance from Africa to Europe is farther than, I mean, Sierra Leone is just next door. I could literally stand in Ghana and throw a stone and it's landing in Sierra Leone. But I would have to pay more than if I'm going into Asia. I think those are the specifics that needs to be discussed. It's good to have an overall agenda and trying to, you know, crawl in there, but let's talk about the specifics. And once we are able to do that, I think that we'll not long, we'll not wait in the queue for long. We'll get there.
Call it a conspiracy theory or not, but the agenda for Africa to become a unified continent. As you say, it's not a conversation that started yesterday or today. The likes of your former president, Kwame Nkrumah, we've had them referred to as the Pan-Africanists. But that agenda has its own protagonists and antagonists. And those who are not in support of Africa coming together would always fight tooth and nail to prevent it from happening. And we find ourselves in a continent where some of the leaders have the Pan-African ideology, and some are just those who dance to the tunes of those who are against the Pan-African ideology.
Exactly.
How do we rally around this?
Exactly.
Because while you're pushing forward, you have those that are being used to pull the continent backwards.
Yes, you know, as DG was earlier addressing, it has to start from somewhere. Definitely, the conversation has to start from somewhere. And once we have a team of people who share similar sentiments, I believe that when you set the ball rolling, when things are moving, it's just fair. It will make common sense for us to be attractive enough for the rest of the people who are late to the party to join. But what happens? What do we see? We start, we're going, this president, that president form an alliance, and then there is change of government, or the people does not agree with this party and there is coup. I think last year, 2 years ago, we heard of so many governments being overthrown in Africa. In my view, this is archaic. This is Africa, how many decades ago? Why is it started? Are the people fed up? What is the problem? You know, so in discussing issues like this, we are able to to have a more inclusive conversation, both with the recipients of whatever policies are being set and with the people who set the policies. So it's not like you're sitting in your room and you are building castles in the air, but you are actually getting to the people who will be the beneficiaries of whatever policies you are making, so that they would also feel inclusive. They said that government is for the people, by the people, and to the people. So if the people feel part of the decision-making process, then it will be easier to drive the agenda. But if the decision process becomes a thing of a very selected few, then the people feel the need to rebel to whatever policies that are being set for them. Bear in mind, they are the direct recipients of those policies. And so I think that it should be a more inclusive discussion. And the ADC definitely gives room for such discussions.
Inclusion is one issue, but it also leads us to the dissemination of the information of the agreements that our leaders have at that level. It doesn't seem to trickle down to the ordinary man, especially men in uniform who sit at the border points, where there is a serious and significant challenge with the intercontinental free trade. Those who are using the borders from one country to the other, they will tell you their stories, and many of those stories are not pleasant. So you find that the leaders agree on one thing, but it doesn't go down to those people who are customs officers, who are security guards at the border crossing points. That remains a challenge. Whatever they agree upon as leaders, if those people don't understand, we're still stuck where we are.
Exactly. So we have a long and a big duty as the few elite citizens who are able to get access to this information to help in any way we can. There is a huge mandate on the media. You know, there is a huge mandate on organizers like myself to be able to host meaningful discussions and really discuss the real issues happening. It might interest you to know that some people do not even know about AFTA. I mean, it has been in existence for what? And for Sierra Leone joining in since 2018, a lot of Sierra Leoneans do not even... I hear people asking, you are going to Sierra Leone? You think you can have a business there? Can you bring products? I'm like, they are signed on to AFTA. It's easier, you know, but as you said, the awareness is not there. And so we are hoping to use some of these platforms to get the message across. I realize that the people of Sierra Leone speak Creole. I'm trying to, you know, speak one or two before I go, but I have made a conscious effort to be able to air some of these opportunities that this conference is going to be in the language of the people, so that they would be able to understand what is being communicated and relate to it, so they can position themselves to benefit from whatever it is that is up for offer. Yes.
Aside from the aspect of awareness raising, as you already mentioned, of course, patients as could seem the essence of it. These laws have been around for quite a while, but people still find it very difficult to make do of these laws. But again, let's talk of the aspects of the Africa Agenda 2063, and similarly so the SDG 5, which talks on, of course, young women's rights. How well seated is same in terms of the FTC? How well seated is the one for the pattern? It's basically how you connect.
It's basically
because they are the ones involved in these trade activities.
Absolutely. So putting this in context, that's the reason why this conference is targeting young people deliberately, women in businesses. You know, like His Excellency the President would always say, the future of Sierra Leone are women, the youths. It's the same for Africa, if you like. In this conference, that's why we reached out to the Ministry of Technical and Higher Education, that is coordinating students across that are just at that point in higher institution of learning, maybe whether it's Lincoln Queen, Frabe College, College of Medicine, the polytechnics, You realize now everywhere in Sierra Leone, across the region, we are bringing students from the Kenema Eastern University, Technical University, whether it's a Cornell Technical University, the Eastern Polytechnic here in Freetown, because this is about them. We want to be able to showcase what Sierra Leone has to offer, just so that they can sit around the table and talk on all of this issue. We're not going back. I mean, we can't go back. Africa is so far behind, for some of us that are privileged to have seen places across the globe. Anytime you come back, you ask, oh my God, how long will it take us to get there? So it started with this conversation. She mentioned about like minds. My sister and I, since we met last year, as I mentioned, we spent time talking on the issues bordering the globe. I mean, the bigger picture for Africa, not only Sierra Leone. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful than ever before. And I think this conference, like she mentioned, will speak on some of these things that you have pointed out. The African continental free trade, the challenges are many. You mentioned about the common currency, for instance. Up until now, it is only in Africa that someone perhaps will want to buy a goods in Ghana and they want you to pay in US dollar, for instance. What a mismatch. So I think we are not going to leave this just in the hands of our leaders in the sense, in the African context, when they say leaders, they only mean political leaders. But political leaders cannot solve this problem. This problem is in the hands of the ordinary people. Those at the bottom there. Let's give them the opportunity. Let's give them the privilege. We're eager for the prospect of this conference, seeing those young people. We have carefully selected, extended the invitation to entrepreneurs in the space, whether it's in the clothing and fashion design, whether it's in the art and craft, the most top sector now, agriculture and agro-businesses. It's a wealth creation sector. Yeah. Maybe people that are doing our little local content products don't even know that there is an African continental free trade opportunity out there, that you should get yourself export ready, your product export ready, and for us at local content, that's what we've been doing over the years. I can't, for me personally, I can't appreciate the opportunity that His Excellency gave me. I've been 6 years in this role. I've seen it all. Going down to the people and listening to their cry, understanding some of these issues. Now, here we are. We are taking local content now beyond Sierra Leone. This conference team is about local content. How do we ensure that, our small business owners are given opportunities to trade across Sierra Leone? So I think we still have challenges, not only as a country but as a continent. But trust me, with this conference, we will start diving onto some of those issues and how best and follow-ups are important in all of this. Many times people will have conferences, then what next? Nope. We will come out with not only a national action plan, but our bigger goal. My sister and I have been talking. At the end of these 2 days, how do we ensure that whatever is agreed on the Sierra Leone side works for Mauritius, work for Comoros, work for Cameroon, as the case may be? Deliberately, we will do that.
How conducive is the environment for business in Sierra Leone, when we've had businesses that finds it very difficult to even take out the products that they made in Sierra Leone to other parts of the world. The other day, a fine gentleman was in the studios. I remember Fabian hosted that one. A fine gentleman who is in carpentry. He does, fine wooden materials, but taking it out of Sierra Leone has always been a challenge for him. Bureaucracy in terms of acquiring the required documents that gives him the leverage or the leeway to get out of Sierra Leone.
So sometimes again, it's about whether lack of not understanding the process. And I always say this to people. Most of the time, people think the only answer to export readiness is to run to the Ministry of Trade, for instance. That's the reason why some of our agencies are the implementing agencies. The ministries drive policies, but hands-on come to us. And that's what we are doing. Deliberately, we don't register substandard business people. I mean, local content, we are not here to promote lazy Sierra Leoneans, if you like. And we have done this.
What do you consider lazy? Is there not an avenue to ensure they are up to speed? They are placing a standard that's pleasing to?
Trust me, my brother. I'll give you a case in point. We have established the special shelving across supermarkets. We've been on this for the past 6 years. When our team goes around monitoring to make sure that we only want quality products, labeled the way we want it, you still see some Sierra Leoneans in the name of local content, giving them this space. I mean, still maybe taking a Bama mayonnaise bottle, trying to package peanut butter in it, not clearly labeled. That's not what local content is. So we'll put them down off the shelf. That's the reason why deliberately now we're working with the supermarket management that we have list the first among the equals. And for us, it's not only about coming to register with us. We follow you. Like in this conference, as much as we have them in hundreds, but we're only going to give 50 of them to exhibits, to showcase.
Fodiba, what you explained is one side of the coin. On the flip side, going back to the example that Samuel mentioned, the gentleman who was in our studio, who is now a carpenter, he's into carpentry, he said he needed certain documents to export into some other countries, especially out of the continent. They require certain other documents to export. He cannot get that on his own. He would obviously need to go through government agencies. That's what he said the challenge has been. He wants to export his furniture to other countries, but the country, Sierra Leone, that he lives in, has not successfully given him all the documents he needs. He had to now go to Guinea,
and that's right,
a country he does not live in, made it very easy for him. They provided the documents. So instead of exporting from Sierra Leone, he's now exporting from Guinea.
And the revenue
because Sierra Leone as a nation failed to provide the documents that he needed. That's one person. He may not be the only one with that situation. There could be other Sierra Leoneans who face the same thing. Is it that it's incompetence on the part of some of the officials, or unawareness of certain of these required documents for our local entrepreneurs to be able to trade out of the continent or even within the continent?
Yeah. So like I rightly mentioned, for me particularly, I'm not aware of that case. We have the wood and carpentry sector within the SMEs that we work with. I'm not sure why that could be this case. It's really unfortunate.
Perhaps you could take it upon yourself now as an assignment. We could link you with him, follow up, and see how many of such people encounter such challenges.
Absolutely. And like I said, maybe all he knows, maybe knock on doors at the Ministry of Trade. These are these kind of things. I've always said this: local content, as much as we are regulators first, but we see our role as facilitators. If you come to our office and we know you are really export ready, there's an opportunity for you and to showcase Sierra Leone, we can easily facilitate some of these things.
But it speaks volumes of the readiness, seriousness of the country to give entrepreneurs such opportunities, especially when you expect that there is collaboration amongst agencies. So if, for example, an entrepreneur goes to the Ministry of Trade to do something and they are committed and very serious about it, even if it's not their office responsibility, they would help redirect the individual to say, this is good, but channel it to XYZ, because again, there should be collaboration between and amongst agencies.
Absolutely.
But it seems we do these things on paper, and verbally we communicate to the public, but when it comes to situations and matters where we demonstrate the action to back up what we've signed to and what we've committed to verbally, the picture then flips.
Absolutely.
It goes a whole 360 change.
Absolutely. So like I said, yeah, I mean, we still have those challenges, but I want to believe with the new leadership at the Ministry of Trade, I mean, the ministry is positioned to look into some of these issues. I know most of the time either they really don't know who should be the first point of call when they are in the ministry out there. But yeah, this should really not happen, and I'll be more than glad to be linked up with this young man. I mean, not only for him now, but to ensure that we create the environment for Sierra Leone, because that's part of our Made in Sierra Leone overarching strategy.
We'll take you up on your word and we'll connect you to him.
Most definitely. I think the conversation becomes very interesting that we forgot to even go for a break. But nonetheless, we have a couple of messages that we'll see. We'll take on our Facebook page and then allow you to respond.
But Samuel, sorry, just before we take those messages,
Yeah, sure.
Patience, I've been itching to ask you this. The way we do our trade within Africa, the currency, the pressure on the USD and the pound sterling, it's also helping to cripple our economy as a continent.
Exactly.
It's easier for a Sierra Leonean in Sierra Leone to get access to a USD or pounds to travel to Ghana and do business than it is to get access to the Ghanaian currency. Because at the end of the day, if I travel from Sierra Leone to Ghana, I go with a USD. When I get to Ghana, I need to change the USD again to your Ghana cities to do business.
Exactly.
Why not even change from Leones to Ghana cities and eliminate the third party, which is the pounds and the USD?
Exactly. And that is a very, very, very good assertion. And it's in discussion. I remember we went to Addis Ababa, and when you are in Ethiopia, you cannot change any USD. You cannot trade in USD. You cannot nothing. You cannot do anything in USD. You know, and it's working for them. Their economy is responding to the pressures very well. These are some of the things we are looking to talk about. These are some of the players we are looking to come into this conference. What are the hands-on measures that you have put in place? How are you able to roll out this policy and that policy? Who should you talk to in Sierra Leone that can be held accountable for things like this type of policies? So it's very interesting, and I must be grateful to DG, because we rode on the back of local content, but when we got into the country, we've been able to get all the intended people or the target audience involved. We've been able to get the relevant ministries, we've been able to get the relevant authorities involved in this, such that it doesn't just end at the talkability, the conference, the pictures, the optics, then that is it. There is a session for a roundtable B2B meeting with specific industry players to sit on specific issues, so that at the end of the day, some of these discussions will have a starting point. And then maybe next year, when I visit Sierra Leone, we'll have some success stories to go by. Say that, okay, after this conference, that happened, that is in place, this is happening, this has started, and we are all moving forward to the agenda that we are setting for ourselves as a continent.
Okay. Let's take some messages. I think first from my end is from Mosdi. who says, I beg to differ from DG Fudidabo. The issue has to be with leadership, especially political leadership, which has been the stumbling block since the days of the late great Kwame Nkrumah, Ahmed Sekou Touré, Madibo Keita, the Emperor Haile Selassie, and a few others.
Ngoji says dollar and pound sterling is killing Africa's young entrepreneurs. Fabian, you're on point. Africa needs to have their own currencies.
Usman Prince Suleiman Kavuni says, what's the purpose behind the African continent intercontinental trade? What are the advantages and disadvantages, and what are the expectations and the outcome of the trade? I would like to ask them to give us a data analysis of companies that have a quality control system and deployment capabilities in their companies. And how are we going to determine product quality and expiration dates, such as product life cycle and shelf life?
Mosdi says, I know this is ironic to say the least. How can we learn from the European experience with all their differences in history, language, etc.? We're able to come together to form a union without the risk of being pessimistic here. These conversations have been going on for decades now, and it seems we're still yet to come up with a solution or solutions. As the sister lady from Ghana was saying, it's costing about $1,000 to travel from Ghana to Sierra Leone by air. What are we as Africans need to do to overcome these antagonists, as mentioned earlier, just as we can achieve this common goal as Africans?
Osfriend Kamal says, sir, during this Intercontinental Free Trade Conference, are you going to address the need to technically upgrade the Standard Bureau, which is an important sect in standardization of goods and services? Presently, Sierra Leone has not yet reviewed the standards to meet with the threshold of to have a mutual recognition agreement in place. This is about conformity assessment.
Thonka David Hassan says, sir, what about the currency issue? Because when you talk about continental free trade, you also have to talk about the currency as well.
Bubakar Siddiq Sakor says, promoting local content is a building block in promoting our economy in Sierra Leone. The Sierra Local Content Agency, with the astute leadership of Director Dabo, we are on the right track in achieving that.
Mystic Dwazak says promoting local content is good, and I must admit that in recent our local content has been tremendous, especially in the area of branding and packaging. Just that most of our local producers are faced with serious financial challenges to run their business.
I think it's interesting from Usman Prince Suleiman Kavuni. He says one language is the way to start.
Your response?
Yeah,
we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. Well, those that are following local content, at least admitting that we are on the right track and making steady progress. I'm very mindful of that. We're not quite there yet as a country. The issue about the Standards Bureau, I know a couple of questions speaks to standards and quality. That's the reason why I believe now they have a new leadership within the Standards Bureau. So I remain hopeful. For us at local content, I mentioned about that local content does not mean we settle for substandard. We have worked with Standards Bureau over the years, and we continue to work with them deliberately. There's this common understanding between local content and Standards Bureau. We will not register you if you cannot ascertain that your product has been tested. Ready for the market. So that has worked over the years for us, and I must commend the outgone leadership of Standards Bureau, Professor Nyoma, over the years, worked with us, because one thing, costing of the testing process was the one actually killing small businesses. So we entered into an MOU wherein, as long as you are registered with local content, your product can be tested for as less as 70% discount. So it's my hope that the new leadership will still maintain that for and in the interest of our small businesses. So again, like we've discussed, everything about the African continental free trade is about quality and standards. It's about standardization. I cannot agree more with the text that we need a common one currency, and that the dollarization, the pounds have been killing our businesses, if you like. In line with what my sister mentioned about Ethiopia, for instance, quite as recent as last week, I have a friend of mine working in Tanzania, and he had wanted to make a transfer for somebody that is sick. Basically, there's this policy now in Tanzania, because of the high increase of the rate of the dollar, that you cannot just, even if it's your own money, you own a foreign account, you can't just walk into the bank and say, hey, I need to withdraw. So he had to ask that someone give a dollar account and write an email to the attention that he can take to the bank that this is a life and death issue before they can allow the transaction to leave Tanzania. I mean, I think these are some of the things we need to emulate. The dollarization is literally killing our businesses. Sometimes I give this in perspective, what is happening to all of us, not only in the private sector, but even in the public sector or the common man. A couple of years ago, what you can do with a $4,000, for instance, equivalent in Leone's, can only be now maybe like $1,500 or less than $2,000. That is how much this dollar issue is killing us, eating us inwardly. So I think these are all some of the issues, because we cannot talk about trade facilitation if we don't solve some of these critical issues around the table.
Yes, quickly, Patience.
Yes. So just to add to what DG was saying, that's initiative is also in Ghana. You cannot go to a Ghanaian bank and take dollars, even if it belongs to you. There are stringent. You'll be frustrated. So, as he said, those are some of the things that we could look at, areas we could look at, to not make this dollars and pounds and euros readily accessible for all. I also want to add to the text that said that locals are finding it difficult to finance their crafts and all. Sometimes we need to think a bit outside of the box as locals. You want to be able to partner with somebody. There is an African problem that I have noticed over the years of ownership. I feel that the normal African man would rather want to risk it all and own something 100%. Whilst if you open up the stake, if you invite partner, if you position yourself well, you could be able to make 3 times more than if you are owning it alone. So these are some aspects or areas that these are local, entrepreneurs can look at. Who can I partner? How can I expand my business by partnership? Sometimes beyond Sierra Leone. Who can I partner in Ghana? I remember when we came in, I think the gentleman here was saying something about some clothing thing. You can partner with somebody who would give you the enabling environment, who will give you readily markets available to consume your products. So I would beg locals, not just in Sierra Leone, it's an African problem. We face the same thing in Ghana, that it doesn't take anything away from you. to say, if you open your business up for partnership, meaningful partnerships, okay, people with the same agenda, with the same goal, with the same objective, you can look at one another and create a synergy so that you'll be able to get more for what you are offering. So yes, to answer that question, I think that is a way that we can also look at it, to be able to fund some of the things that we are doing. And who knows, a small local thing sitting in the corner can be a household name in Africa, and it will all be because of a meaningful partnership that they started.
Thank you very much, lady and gentlemen, for your time. She's Patience Agri, lead for the event to be held in Freetown, and we've had Fodiba Dabo, who's the Director General of the local content agency Sierra Leone.